everyone. We're
Hi.
sitting here on the floor. This is Kelsey, our OT.
Hello.
We're finally getting to the sensory talk. It's probably going to be multiple parts because there was a lot of questions. And then we've had ideas of things to talk about as well. So if we don't get to your question, stay tuned. You can also always feel free to send us more questions. I also was realizing that, like, I'm always just in here kind of by myself, that fitting two people in and then our stand didn't hold it. Anyway, so this is what you got. We're kind of squished in. So this kind of came about because we were having a conversation one day about, like, sensory and just, like, the needs of it. And I was joking because I said, my best friend loves to say, like, oh, I get it. And she'll be like, I explain the sensory to them because she'll be like, it's like the fact that I need to be completely silent when I'm doing work. And she needs to have the not Kelsey, but like my best friend, needs to have the TV or the music on to focus on work. So, and Kelsey can jump in here, but so basically what I was trying to tell her and what I try to tell other people using that example is that all of us process sensory information. Mm-hmm. It's just, and we all have sensitivities. Like, I get auditorily overstimulated. Like, I can tune it out sometimes, but like if I'm tired or things like that, I have a harder time tuning it out. And I just, like, I go into tunnel vision and, like, I've had a child here, like, screaming, and somebody else tried to ask me a question, and I just probably looked at them with a blank stare because all of my energy was focused on this child because I couldn't tune anything out. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, as usual. So we all have sensory challenges or things that we have a harder time with, and we all process the information from our sensory. When it becomes a problem is that you aren't able to find strategies to process it. Okay. So, like, for me, like, my strategy is I just make sure things are quieter, like, when I'm trying to do stuff. Or it's not a novel. Like, I can do work with a movie on sometimes, but it has to be a movie I have seen a ton of times, and then it's just kind of like background noise. But yeah, so, and then I think what further did the conversation was, like, we've been following a lot of the stuff about, like, not taking away kids' ability to, like, stim on things. And so we've just sparked, which we think is fine and great, and, like, so kind of just sparked this, like, well, how do you do it then sometimes, because it gets in the way of what you need to do, and I don't know. So this is kind of where we got this whole idea. So anyway, now that I've just talked for 3 minutes and not told you guys really anything.
I was going to say, in terms of what Stacey was saying with processing sensory information, we at school talked about having, like, high thresholds and low thresholds. So people, like Stacey was saying, she has a very low threshold for auditory processing because if it's really loud, then she can't process anything else. So we would consider that like a low threshold. Some kids that are sensory seekers, maybe spinning or bouncing into the, couch or something at home, they have a very low threshold, so they need a lot of input in order for them to, like, basically balance their sensory regulation. And I think one of the questions that came up a lot was about kids putting things in their mouth or chewing on their sweatshirts. Here, a lot of our kids that have oral seeking behaviors, we use chewies sometimes, ones that can be around their mouth or their neck, or just ones that they can put in their mouth just to give them that input so they can attend to a task. I found that I actually have one kid that I've found that he does really well at table activities when he has a mint in his mouth. So we've been using those a lot just to give him that input while we're trying to get him to attend to buttons or a handwriting activity.
So is that kind of like, so what I'm hearing and relating it to is, like, what do you need to do to focus? Mm-hmm. So, like somebody who, like, taps a pen or chews on a pen. I probably am an oral seeker. I chew ice. I chew on pens. Right. I actually don't chew on gum because I have this very strange fear of the gum sticking to my teeth. It's very weird. Or, like, tapping your foot or things like that. So using those to help kind of keep everything else separating at prime? Is
Right.
that
Yeah.
sort of it?
So we say like we're trying to get us to be regulated to be like a just right. The basically the seeking behaviors of like chewing on something, you're basically giving yourself input in order for you to focus on another task. So some kids, or like Stacey was saying, like chewing on pens or doing other things like putting things in their mouth while they're trying to do another activity, is just a way for them to be able to regulate themselves in order for them to perform another activity. So I guess in terms of just function, like everyday function, those kids are seeking those behaviors in order for them just to be able to do everyday things like going to school or being able to put their shoes on. So it's just a I guess like a sensory seeking behavior that we see a lot, even like as adults and things. If you're just chewing on your pencil, you may not even recognize that you're chewing on your pencil, but you are.
Nail biters,
Yes.
all of that.
Yes.
So, I think it helps to think of some of these sensory processing things in terms of like, what are things that we do, like which we might just call like, oh, it's just a habit.
Right.
When
I think it used to be considered a habit, like shaking your leg a lot, or I think the putting anything in your mouth, I think a lot of people just automatically do it in order for them just
would another one be like, people that like play with their hair a lot?
Yeah. I would say that would be one. I see a lot of kids doing like the shaking of the chair or like readjusting in their chair just to get them to be able to like just be awake and be alert.
Which makes sense, because like if I sit for too long, like you kind of start to like slump. So like you almost need to do something like alerting
like
or arousing, which is where sensory breaks. It's just like us getting up and walking around. It's just that some of these kids might need more input to help alert.
Right, and some kids just don't know how to get that input. Like as adults and things, we've learned how to get that input, whether it's chewing gum or listening to music in the background. So kids that are struggling, some of the times they have these crazy behaviors that present as, they're disrupting a classroom, or they're running around the clinic and they can't, you can't get them just to stay in the room that you're trying to treat them in. So I think the best thing is to give them, try to figure out, what they're seeking, and be able to give them that sensory activity, every couple hours, just so they can continue to be regulated throughout the day.
Right, because the quote-unquote crazy behavior, which is what people often think it is really just their way of like getting what they need. Like I know I think it was actually the day that I had the screaming child. I like went home and like on the drive home, like I couldn't have any sound on, like my neck hurt, like everything hurt. And I got my child and I put him in front of the TV because I needed to go in my room, have quiet. I put like a heating pack on here, which was also a little bit weighted, and closed my eyes because I felt like I was flying apart at the seams and I needed chance to come back to me, especially if I wanted to parent for the rest of the day. Like that's the hard part.
And the I guess the wildest thing is like what you were feeling, that's how kids are feeling all the time. So, in a way, it's great that we have these conversations, because I think we think of the behaviors as all these like negative things that are happening because, they're affecting maybe the other people that are in the room, but in the reality is they're just really looking for some help just to be able to, be the best of themselves and do what you're asking them to do. They just need a little bit of help and redirection for some sensory activities throughout their day. So,
yeah. I'm debating if we should pause it. We've already been almost 10 minutes. I think I might stop it, and then we'll kind of just start again so that we can like break this up to you guys into manageable bits. And this one might even have gotten cut into two. So put on pause.